Pacific Airlines Flight 739 was poised for departure from San Francisco to New York. In the bustling terminal, passengers hurriedly made final adjustments before boarding. Among them was a 7-year-old girl with blonde hair and curious eyes, tightly gripping her father's hand. She wore a light blue dress, a serene contrast to the frenetic airport ambience. Her father, a stern figure, appeared distant, engrossed in his phone. Inside the aircraft, flight attendant Daniel meticulously prepared for takeoff. Tall and exuding a welcoming demeanor, Daniel was renowned for his ability to navigate any situation with poise and courtesy. He traversed the aisles, checking overhead compartments and ensuring passengers were settled. Approaching row 12, Daniel noticed the girl and her father settling into their seats. The girl's gaze met his, her wide eyes revealing a blend of curiosity and something deeper, perhaps a silent plea. Daniel smiled warmly before continuing his rounds, though a lingering sense of unease persisted. As the cabin hummed with chatter and subdued laughter, Daniel returned to the front to conduct safety instructions. His glance returned to the girl's father, now more engrossed in his phone than his daughter. The girl, however, appeared unsettled, her eyes darting around as if seeking an escape or answers. As the cabin doors sealed shut and the aircraft taxied down the runway, Daniel found himself unable to shake thoughts of her. Though he had encountered many children during his flights, there was something uniquely compelling and concerning about her demeanor. Once airborne and the plane stabilized, Daniel resolved to keep a vigilant watch over row 12. What had seemed like a routine journey was poised to unravel into something intricate and unforeseen. Unbeknownst to him, the flight attendant stood on the precipice of a journey that would irrevocably alter both his and the girl's lives. With the flight cruising smoothly, Daniel embarked on his first beverage service round, offering drinks and snacks to the passengers. Approaching row 12, he noted the girl's growing agitation. Her gaze was wide, scanning the cabin as if in search of something or someone. Meanwhile, her father remained absorbed in his phone, oblivious to his daughter's increasingly restless state. When Daniel offered beverages, the girl seized the moment to speak to him. Gently tugging on his uniform sleeve, she whispered urgently, "Sir, can I talk to you?" Daniel crouched down, meeting her eyes with a gentle smile. "Of course, what's on your mind?" he asked kindly. Glancing nervously at her father, the girl hesitated before confiding, "I'm scared. I don't want to be here," tears threatening to spill from her eyes. Before Daniel could respond, the father's cold gaze interrupted. He swiftly pulled his daughter back to her seat, admonishing her firmly, "Don't bother the flight attendant, Emily." Daniel nodded understandingly and withdrew, but concern weighed heavily on his mind. Continuing his duties, he kept a vigilant watch on row 12. Something was amiss, and he was determined to grasp the situation better. Returning discreetly to his station, he observed Emily closely. Soon Daniel noticed Emily engaged in secretive movements, using subtle gestures with her hands, hidden from her father's view. Attempting to discern her message, Daniel found himself unable to fully grasp the meaning. Intrigued and increasingly anxious, he resolved to seek assistance. During a brief respite, Daniel retreated to the galley and phoned Sarah, a fellow team member. "Sarah, I need your insight on something," he began urgently, outlining the situation. Sarah's brow furrowed in concern. She might be trying to communicate something crucial. "You've got to find out what it is without alarming her father." Armed with Sarah's advice, Daniel returned to the aisle. Emily appeared increasingly frantic, her signals more pronounced and urgent. Daniel understood he had to act swiftly yet discreetly. Time was of the essence to uncover what the girl needed to convey before it became too late. With a resolve to assist Emily, Daniel devised a subtle approach. Equipped with a notepad and pen, he pretended to take drink orders as he approached row 12 once more. Near the girl, he covertly penned a message, "Are you in danger?" Shielding the note from her father's view with his body, Daniel showed it to Emily. She glanced at the note, then at Daniel, nodding ever so slightly. A shiver ran down Daniel's spine. He needed more clarity. Continuing his rounds, he discreetly observed Emily from a distance. She resumed her hand signals, this time more distinctly. It took Daniel a moment to decipher, but he eventually pieced together the words she was spelling out in the air: "Help." Confirming his suspicions, Daniel knew swift action was essential. He returned to the galley, briefing Sarah and asking her to cover for him briefly. Sneaking away to a nearby restroom, he waited for an opportune moment when Emily could slip away unnoticed by her father. After a tense few minutes, Emily managed to slip out of her seat and rendezvous with Daniel in the restroom. In the confined space, she finally disclosed, "My dad, he did something bad. I don't want to go with him. I'm scared." Her voice trembled with fear and uncertainty. Daniel comforted her, his tone reassuring. "Emily, you're safe now. I need to understand more to help you." "What exactly did he do?" he inquired gently. With tears streaming down her cheeks, Emily revealed in a hushed tone, "He took me without my mom's permission. He said we were moving somewhere far away, and I'd never see her again. Please don't let him take me." Daniel's heart sank, realizing the gravity of the situation. He held Emily close, promising to protect her. Returning to the cabin, Daniel discreetly informed the pilot of the urgent circumstances. The pilot promptly contacted authorities at the destination, arranging for police to meet the flight upon landing. With the wheels in motion for Emily's safety, Daniel reassured her during the remainder of the flight, ensuring she felt secure until they landed. After Emily returned to her seat, Daniel maintained a vigilant watch as the flight progressed. The unfolding mystery heightened the tension on board with each passing minute. As the aircraft continued its journey, Daniel focused intently on row 12, steadfast in his determination to ensure Emily's safety until they reached their destination. Meanwhile, her father remained oblivious, immersed in his phone. Striving to maintain composure, Daniel busied himself by jotting notes in his pad. Swiftly outlining a plan for the flight crew, he emphasized the importance of discreetly monitoring row 12 and keeping a watchful eye on Emily without arousing her father's suspicion. The tension mounted with each passing moment. The flight felt interminable, and Daniel understood that any misstep could further endanger Emily. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on him, but he was resolute in his determination not to falter. Midway through the flight, unexpected turbulence jolted the plane, causing passengers to grip their seats tightly. Emily looked to Daniel with wide, frightened eyes. He offered a reassuring smile, hoping to convey a sense of safety. Once the turbulence subsided, Daniel noticed Emily's father scrutinizing her more closely, sensing something amiss. Knowing he needed to act swiftly to avoid arousing suspicion, Daniel approached Sarah discreetly. "We need to maintain calm. Her father is becoming suspicious," he murmured. Sarah nodded, swiftly engaging nearby passengers to divert attention from any potential concerns. Returning to row 12, Daniel brought a cup of juice for Emily. "Here, this might help you feel better," he said softly, offering her the cup with a warm smile. Emily accepted it gratefully, offering a small smile in return. As Daniel moved away, a fleeting sense of relief washed over him, though he remained vigilant, knowing he must be prepared for any contingency. Approaching the cockpit once more, Daniel briefed the pilot on the urgency of preparing for a swift and discreet disembarkation upon landing. With the presence of law enforcement waiting, the ensuing hours were fraught with tension. Daniel and the crew orchestrated their actions seamlessly, camouflaging their intentions within routine tasks. Each passing minute seemed to stretch into eternity, yet the plan was underway. With each coordinated step, Daniel clung to the hope that they could resolve everything safely despite the looming threat. As the flight approached its final destination, Daniel observed Emily growing increasingly agitated. Though her father remained absorbed in his phone, occasional suspicious glances toward Emily betrayed his growing concern. Daniel understood they were running out of time and needed to proceed cautiously. He sought out Sarah, who was serving coffee at the rear of the plane, and spoke urgently. "Sarah, we need a plan to separate Emily from her father as soon as we land. We can't afford to wait for the police. We have to move swiftly." Sarah paused for a moment, considering her options. "We can use the disembarkation process as a distraction," she proposed. "I'll announce a technical issue that requires everyone to exit quickly. It should create enough confusion to separate Emily from her father." Daniel nodded in agreement, recognizing the strategy's potential effectiveness. He returned to monitoring row 12, ready to act. As the plane commenced its descent, Daniel discreetly prepared for their next move. Leaning closer to Emily, he whispered, "Emily, when we land, we need to move swiftly. Trust me, I'll keep you safe." Emily nodded, her face a mix of apprehension and tentative trust. Daniel returned to his post, nervously anticipating the landing. When the aircraft touched down, Daniel felt a surge of relief and adrenaline. The plan was underway. Sarah's announcement prompted passengers to hustle toward the exits with heightened urgency. Emily's father stood, clutching her hand tightly. Moving swiftly, Daniel approached them and calmly intervened. Sir, let me assist your daughter with disembarking. It'll be quicker and safer for everyone. The father hesitated briefly, but amidst the commotion, he reluctantly acquiesced. Daniel grasped Emily's hand firmly and guided her towards the front of the plane, his pulse racing with urgency. Every moment was critical. As they disembarked, a discreet group of undercover police officers, masquerading as airport personnel, stood ready. Daniel entrusted Emily into the care of one of the officers before turning back to confront her father, who was beginning to comprehend the unfolding situation. What's going on? The father demanded, suspicion etched in his voice. Daniel remained composed, replying firmly, We're ensuring everyone's safety, sir. Please come with me. With swift coordination, the police moved in to apprehend Emily's father, detailing the circumstances while Daniel escorted the girl away. Emily glanced back at Daniel, still apprehensive but visibly relieved to be away from her father's grasp. Watching her being escorted to safety, Daniel felt a rush of relief flood over him. The most challenging part was behind them, yet there remained much to resolve. The revelations surrounding Emily's father and his actions had altered everything. Now, Daniel was committed to ensuring Emily's continued safety and seeing justice served. The organized chaos of disembarkation began to dissipate as passengers were directed towards the terminal. Daniel watched intently as undercover police officers escorted Emily's father to a secure area. Suddenly, the father realized what was happening and tried to break free, shouting angrily, You can't do this. She's my daughter. Emily, hearing her father's voice, cowered behind Daniel, who stood protectively in front of her. Please stay calm, sir. The authorities will explain everything, Daniel said, attempting to defuse the situation. But the father was uncooperative. He struggled and managed to break free from one of the officers, advancing towards Emily with a furious expression. The surrounding passengers began to step back, frightened. Without hesitation, Daniel placed himself between the father and Emily. Stop. Don't make this worse, he said firmly and authoritatively. The father hesitated for a moment, but his rage seemed uncontrollable. He tried to push Daniel aside, but before he could advance, the police tackled him to the ground, quickly handcuffing him. This is a mistake, he yelled. She's my daughter. As the father was taken away, Daniel knelt beside Emily, who was crying silently. You're safe now. Everything will be okay, he said gently and reassuringly. Emily looked at him, her eyes filled with gratitude and fear. Daniel hugged her, offering the comfort she desperately needed. He knew she was about to face a whirlwind of emotions and that her life was about to change forever. Moments later, a police officer returned to talk to Daniel. Thank you for your help. We'll take care of Emily and ensure her safety. You might need to give a statement about what happened during the flight, the officer said. Daniel nodded. Of course. I'll do whatever is necessary, Daniel said as the police led Emily to a safe area. He felt a mix of relief and exhaustion. The situation had been intense and dangerous, but he knew he had done the right thing. Watching Emily disappear with the police, he realized there was still more to be done to ensure her safety and justice. The confrontation had been the most intense moment of his career, but also the most rewarding. Just as he was about to leave the security area, one of the officers called him. Sir, can you please come with us? We need a bit more information, the officer said politely but firmly. Daniel agreed and was taken into a room where Emily was sitting with a social worker. The girl looked more relaxed but still showed signs of fatigue and fear. The social worker motioned for Daniel to sit down. Emily has told us part of what happened, but we'd like to hear your version as well, the social worker said. Daniel nodded and began to recount the events of the flight from the moment he noticed Emily's strange behavior to the confrontation with her father. He explained how the girl signaled for help and how he and the crew devised a plan to ensure her safety. As he spoke, Emily held the social worker's hand for comfort. The officer took detailed notes, and the social worker occasionally interrupted with more specific questions. Did you notice any other suspicious or dangerous behavior from the father during the flight? The social worker asked. Daniel thought for a moment. He seemed completely disinterested in his daughter, focused only on his phone. But the look he gave her when he realized we were interacting, it was scary. He seemed more irritated than concerned. The officer finished his notes and thanked Daniel for his cooperation. As he stood to leave, Emily called to him in a soft voice. "Daniel, thank you," she said, her eyes filled with gratitude. Daniel smiled at her, feeling a wave of emotion. "You were very brave, Emily. Everything will be okay now." As he left the room, Daniel felt the weight of the situation begin to lift. But just as he thought everything was under control, an alarm blared through the terminal. A commotion erupted with people running and shouting. "What's happening?" he asked one of the guards. "There was an escape attempt. Emily's father tried to escape custody," the guard replied, clearly agitated. Daniel's heart raced. He ran back to the room where Emily was. He saw the girl was safe with the social worker and two officers, but her father was nowhere in sight. "We need to reinforce security here. He can't get near her again," Daniel said, trying to stay calm. The terminal was in chaos, but the police quickly organized a search. After tense moments and a frantic hunt, they finally located Emily's father hiding in a restricted area. He was restrained again, this time with reinforced security. With Emily's father finally detained and taken away, Daniel felt a wave of relief. He returned to the room where Emily was now accompanied by a group of professionals, including social workers and child psychologists. "Emily, you're safe now," said one of the social workers with a warm smile. "We'll take care of you and make sure everything is all right." Emily looked at Daniel, still holding his hand. There was a silent connection between them, a mutual understanding of what they had gone through together. "Daniel, thank you for everything," she said, her voice soft but full of sincerity. Daniel smiled, crouching down to her level. "You were very brave, Emily. Always remember that." As Emily was led away, Daniel felt satisfaction but also exhaustion. He knew he had done everything in his power to protect that girl. As he watched the team take Emily, one of the officers approached him. "You did a great job today, Daniel. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't noticed the signs," said the officer. "Just did what anyone would do," Daniel replied modestly. Later in the terminal, Daniel saw a woman approaching quickly, her eyes filled with worry and tears. It was Emily's mother. When she saw her daughter, she ran to hug her, holding her tightly. "Emily, my God, are you okay?" she said, her voice choked with emotion. Emily clung to her mother, crying but this time with tears of relief and joy. "I'm okay, Mom. Daniel helped me." The mother looked at Daniel with infinite gratitude. "Thank you. You saved my daughter," she said emotionally. Daniel nodded, feeling touched by the moment. "She's a very special girl. I'm glad I could help." As the mother and daughter reunited, Daniel felt a deep sense of accomplishment. He knew Emily was in good hands and that the situation, despite how difficult it had been, was finally resolved. Walking towards the terminal exit, he felt the day's weight begin to dissipate. The night sky was clear, and he took a deep breath, reflecting on the events that had unfolded. Despite the challenges and dangers, the courage and determination of a little girl, combined with the quick actions of a flight attendant, had changed the course of her life. As he left the airport, Daniel knew that this experience would stay with him forever, a reminder that even in the most difficult moments, it's possible to make a difference and bring safety and hope to those who need it most.